Ghislaine Maxwell is asking the Supreme Court to overturn her criminal conviction, but the government just filed a response urging the Supreme Court to deny her request. So why does she think her conviction should be overturned? Essentially, she claims she should have never been prosecuted in New York because of a non-prosecution agreement that Epstein signed with federal prosecutors in Florida back in 2007. Apparently, Epstein cut a deal with the U.S. Attorney's Office for the Southern District of Florida. If he agreed to certain conditions, including pleading guilty to state charges of soliciting prostitution, soliciting minors to engage in prostitution, and agreeing to an 18-month prison sentence, then he and some co-conspirators wouldn't face federal prosecution. Maxwell claims that this protected her from later prosecution in New York. So what does the government say in response? First, the government argues that the MPA was limited to the Southern District of Florida. It explicitly deferred federal prosecution in that district in favor of Florida state charges. Second, DOJ policy at the time and still today says that no U.S. Attorney's Office can make a non-prosecution agreement binding on other districts without specific written approval from DOJ leadership. And that didn't happen here. Third, the government argues that the MPA's clause about co-conspirators was limited to Florida-based offenses and wasn't some global immunity deal. In fact, Epstein himself was later federally prosecuted in another district despite the MPA. So why would his co-conspirators somehow have more broader immunity than him? Additionally, the government says it didn't even know about Maxwell's role in Epstein's scheme when the MPA was negotiated, so there's no evidence anyone intended it to protect her. Ultimately, I think it's unlikely that the Supreme Court will take up this case. Maxwell tries to argue that there's a circuit split about how broadly the United States or the government can be bound by a deal like this, but the government points out that her case is too fact-specific to help resolve any split among the circuits. So if the court denies her petition, this is probably the end of the road for her appeal.